If you were abducted and tortured by a person whose life you ruined long ago, what would you do? Sometimes fate just doesn't serve you a rotten hand of cards. It stuffs the worst cards down your throat until you choke to death on them. If you're lucky, you go to therapy early enough to turn you into Dexter. For the unluckiest of the unlucky, you get to reach your breaking point years after you've been ritualistically brainwashed by a psychopath and tear down a revenge spiral so fast you forget to have fun along the way. For Jay, Kat, Adam, and Paul, they find themselves at the mercy of a far more sympathetic villain than anyone expected. Meaning, they're in for a world of schadenfreude, and we're in for a whole lot of questioning which side of this thing we're supposed to be on. Technically, though, they are the victims of kidnapping and torment, so they'll need to put their limited rational thinking to good use and try to escape the karma that's been chasing them for 20 years. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the captor in The Dare. On the street of Normo Rockwell's nightmares, an unknown threat stalks down the sidewalk, coming to a foreboding stop outside one house in particular. Inside, Jay and his family are preparing for bed when he realizes he left the book he was going to read to his kids out in the car. He calls out to his wife about the keys, she doesn't answer, and something darts past the window. He leaves the room for a second, and when he returns to their front door is standing wide open. He hears something crash in the kitchen and enters to find his wife knocked out on the floor.
What's wrong with mommy?
Whatever happened, it ain't enough to light a fire under Jay's to do anything about it. And apparently, he never taught his kids how to dial 911. It'd be an excellent time for that. No? Apparently not. He hears his older daughter scream from upstairs and races to the rescue with a kitchen knife and the peripheral vision of Helen Keller. He finds her in the fetal position under her bed, hiding from something. So, of course, he lies belly down on the floor, you know, the optimum defensive position. Does Jay even have tactical senses? And you, child of our loins, what the hell are you doing? Seriously, have you ever known a kid not to scream their head off about a boogeyman in the closet? At least whisper us a heads up. Even though he has a knife poised in his hand, ready to strike the very meaty blood bag of a leg behind him, Jay attempts to stand instead and takes a brutal knockout punch for his efforts. He wakes up bagged and chained to a wall in Pyramid Head's basement. The floor is made of sand and eroded bone dust. The walls are caked in to vomited blood, and he has 3 cellies. Adam, a super trooper washout, Kat, the human equivalent of a blizzard wind, and Paul, this tenderized deli lunch special that provides everyone with a white noise soundtrack of wheezing coughs and painful moans. Dude looks like he just left a gladiator pit after going toe-to-toe with a hyena. Totally understandable once we meet Credence, one of the worst and most psychotic kidnappers ever committed to film, who has recently captured a young boy named Dom to raise as his own. Calling Credence's parental-style tough love would be like calling napalm a type of firecracker. Dom has just escaped a chained fate similar to Jay's when Credence arrives with dinner. He tells Dom that if he behaves, he'll get to live here in one of the radioactive barrel closets from Fallout 4. If he doesn't, he'll go back in the pit to be chained and beaten. Decisions. Then he gives Dom dinner.
City boy, this is your home now.
Just the first of many, many lessons in parenting brought to you by horrific child abuse and someone's twisted imagination. In Credence's industrial-sized barn, he tosses Dom a bag full of pig offal to sell for market. When the boy drops it, he paints the kid red with swine blood. It's like the reverse of Harry's lessons in Dexter, how to raise a psychopath. And here I thought you just had to let them binge watch reality television at a formative age. Credence makes Dom thank him for the terrible treatment, reminding the kid that his parents never wanted him, and Credence is all he has. Also, if Dom ever upsets him, he'll kill him. Later, when Dom tries to go into the basement and doesn't want to talk to Credence at dinner, Credence slams a fork into Dom's thigh.
That's it, let the evil out.
You know, evil dad things. Down in the basement, Jay tests the length of his restraints and asks for details about their situation. He gets pretty much nothing, except that they've been there long enough to give up on trying to escape. The lights flicker to warn their torturer's impending arrival, but Adam cryptically warns Jay that it's not their captor who actually does the torturing. A piece of meat is tossed in from the door as dinner. I know things are looking grim, but could you maybe not drag our one pork chop through the dirt before giving me some? Jay asks if they're going to give Paul any. Kat tells Jay their captor gives Paul some sort of injections to keep him alive, which tells us something pretty critical about whoever's keeping us here. There's a purpose to this madness, an end goal. Figuring out what it is our second priority, right after trying to untie ourselves from the wall. Paul may be shredded and torn, but he isn't missing any pieces, nor is anyone else, so we're probably not in a cannibal situation. The only other person here exhibiting wounds is Adam, so if it were me, I'd be asking Adam what triggered our captor to attack him, and then I'd be calling out to Paul to tell us about his encounters. In a minute, we'll see that Paul's lips are actually sewn shut, which means we will need to meet at the ends of our chains to cut his mouth open before he can tell us anything. Still, it's worth the effort. Adam and Kat warn Jay that if he tries anything or doesn't eat, he'll end up like Paul, but Jay declares he'll escape or die trying. Yeah, no. Who's just waiting around to be murdered? This isn't The Menu. Jay's in a worse spot than he realizes because 2 of his 3 cellmates are insane. Kat and Adam have been in here so long, they're hurling insults at each other and laughing about them and rehashing old war stories. Like how, as a teenager, Kat used to catfish married men into meeting her so she could ruin their marriages. Not to mention the whole they stopped trying to escape thing. He should be peppering them with questions about how they came to be in here. Not just how they were kidnapped, but what's happened since they've arrived. How long they've been in here. Has there been a pattern of the captor coming and going? And what triggered the freak to score Paul's flesh like a piece of beef for Korean barbecue? The point right now is information gathering. We can't Leroy Jenkins our way out of this makeshift animal cage. If we want to survive, we have to become the Sherlock Holmes of our own salvation. Look for clues, track patterns, and plan our attack wisely. Upstairs, Credence waves one more red flag in Dom's face before he suddenly becomes ill, leaving his keys within Dom's reach. The kid bolts for the door. He's so small he has to use a table to reach the top lock, but only a few feet from the house. Credence warns him that if he leaves, he'll never be welcomed back. Credence's taunting manipulation about Dom's parents not wanting him scares the kid and he returns to the house, giving in completely to the idea of being Credence's son. Daddy Dearest shares a calculated crumb of affection with Dom and promises the kid that he'll never let anyone hurt him. An emotional manipulation tactic that works like a charm on a still developing brain already traumatized by abuse.
Remove the evil.
God, this is hard to watch. The only way to combat this level of psychological indoctrination is to nurture and protect an untouchable idea within you that the person who is trying to brainwash you is wrong. This idea could take the form of a loved one, a place, a goal, or even an unshakable idea of who we could be. Sort of like a real-world version of the Token from Inception. A way to tell dark fantasy from reality, truth from the lie you're being broken into believing. Of course, that's a lot to ask of most adults, let alone a kid with no family and nowhere to go. Let's pause right here to discuss the rabid dog in the room. If you are a minor in an abusive situation, there are resources available to help you escape and overcome, like your parents in their sleep with a kitchen knife. Or I guess you could alert your caseworker if you're in foster care or have been adopted. Whether it's a biological or legal arrangement, if they aren't receptive, call 911 and or the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline if you're in the United States. If your guardians won't allow you to use the phone, contrive a way to go somewhere, a library or other public space, or wait until you get to school where you can ask to borrow a phone or talk to a guidance counselor or Google criminal lawyers that work with child use cases who have various resources that can help extricate you from your situation. Just remember in the meantime that you can survive without the affection of an adult in your life, and you're worth more than the meager scraps a bad adult may toss you. And most importantly, if you're going to murder your abusive parent, try to do so in a way that doesn't make you the prime suspect. Back in the basement, Jay notices a camera embedded in the wall and starts ranting at it, taunting their captor to reveal himself. He flips the camera off and the lights waver. The door creaks. Their captor enters, wearing what I can only describe as a mask made from the stuff scraped off bus station bathroom floors. As you could probably tell, this guy ain't Credence, so who could he be? He drags what's left of Paul into the center of the room. Jay demands to know if his family's okay, but eyes wide open over here points to Kat and hands her a knife. He drags his finger across his chest ominously. He compels Kat to slice off a piece of Paul's flesh, revealing what I think is another clue to our situation. Forcing us to torture each other is likely punishment, suggesting our captor may know us from before and see this as some sort of revenge. Of course, we can worry about all the whys later in therapy, after we've taken that knife he just handed us and slammed it suddenly through his neck, or after we've been shoved to our knees, giving us a very clean line of sight to the femoral artery in his leg. A deep, sudden slice could bleed him in less than 2 minutes. Instead, Kat gets sent back to the corner and captor beckons Jay forward. The captor tosses the blade at Jay's feet as Kat and Adam warn him not to do anything stupid. How about you pick up some good old-fashioned pocket sand while you bend down to pick up that knife? Toss a bit in his face like Gladiator right before you send that blade into his heart. No, that'd be too obvious. Bet you wish you had pocket sand now, don't you, Jay? Or even that bone shard you were digging with earlier. More importantly, why are you hesitating? Stab him again while he's looking at his arm. Stab until he takes that knife from you. Stab somewhere that'll really hurt him. Gore his nads. Plunge and drag the knife through his abdomen, spilling his guts. Go for his femoral artery or his Achilles tendon, or even the inside of his arm where the brachial artery is. You've already attacked him. In for a penny, in for a pound. It's too late for anything like that. The captor takes the knife, knocks Jay back, then drags Kat into the middle. He makes Adam torture her by forcing a cockroach down her throat through a plastic tube. After the captors left, Jay stomps on the cockroach and discovers a razor blade hidden inside. He immediately sets to work cutting through the cord keeping him attached to the wall without giving a single flying f*** of a thought to the security camera watching everything. The captor stomps in, but Jay's already freed himself. He shoves past the captor and into the hallway, only to find the door leading upstairs locked. He sees a ventilation shaft in the ceiling and wriggles into it, but it's flimsy and can't take his body weight. The screws break and he's knocked unconscious when the floor introduces itself to his face. Look, I completely empathize with that nebulous desire not to take a human life. Oh, okay, maybe not, but especially not when you're trapped 6 feet from a man being systematically relieved of his nerve endings one at a time. He's a piece of living proof that your tormentor will end your life only long after you've stopped wanting to live it. There was a moment when the captor went to Kat instead of chasing Jay that Jay could have turned around and slammed his head into the concrete wall so hard he showered Kat in gray stuff, or disoriented the captor long enough to get him on the ground and curb stomp his head in. Running is a great idea if you know you have a clear means of escape. If you don't, you've just cornered yourself in a room with 2 lapdogs, an almost corpse, and Magic Mike's psychotic body double. Jay wakes up with a heavy length of chain tying him to the wall this time. Kat asks if he found a way out, but of course he didn't. The captor enters and allows Adam to unchain himself. He hands Adam an axe, then wraps a meaty hand around Jay's throat and lifts him up to the wall before dropping him. Adam advances.
It's either you or me.
And just like that, we've learned the same lesson Chelsea learned in Do Not Reply. Sometimes people become so institutionalized, the best thing you can do for them is not to include them in your escape plans. The captor holds up Jay's hand and gestures for Adam to nail him to the wall. Then, Adam puts himself back in his own restraints. Like I said, institutionalized. When he wakes up, Jay rips his hands off the wall. This is why we don't squander our opportunities to wreck when we get them. Jay asks for more information about the captor, like he should have done about 2 brutal tortures ago. Paul rips the sutures on his mouth open so he can speak, but only manages to whisper the word horse before he dies. Adam tells Jay that the captor has a horseshoe burn on his hand, that he saw it when Jay accidentally ripped the guy's glove off.
Paul was trying to tell us. I know you.
We suddenly cut back 20 years to find Jay, Kat, Adam, and Paul sitting around a campfire in the woods, telling stories about a crazy old geezer who killed a kid using a scalding chamber, and now stalks the woods looking for victims. The captor is none other than an adult Dom, who these 4 bottom dwellers met back when they were kids. Oh, but they didn't just meet him, they did a little torturing of their own. To join their depraved breakfast club, they made him complete a series of up dares that endow schoolyard bullying with a suggestion of innocence it doesn't deserve. Guess I just hung out with all the right kids growing up. These little miscreants are so grotesque, they make me want to commit some human rights violations. Dom's home life wasn't much better than it was with Credence, and eventually, the 4 demon spawn who tortured him came back for one more crack at a lonely kid desperate for a friend. Kat lured him into the woods to a dilapidated farmhouse where the others peer pressured him to go inside.
No way!
Turns out they're the reason Credence was able to capture and brainwash him for the last 20 years. So, we're switching sides here, right? We're gonna help Dom get the revenge he deserves. Honestly, with all 4 of his tormentors contained, it's as easy as welding the door shut and watching over camera as they slowly starve until they get so ravenous, one of them gnaws through the rope and starts divvying out choice cuts of Paul, and then each other. If Dom hadn't lived the majority of his life in the technological dead zone, I'd say that while that was all happening, we could get to work dismantling their lives digitally so that their legacies are tarnished and no one remembers them after they die. Things only got worse for Dom when he became a teenager. He learned that Credence doubled down on their living arrangement by setting his parents on fire and watching them burn to death. So Dom truly had nowhere to go. And when Dom dared to finally leave, Credence tried to teach him a lesson by using the scalding chamber in his barn.
How can I let you live?
No! Father, I'm sorry! I'm sorry! This is why you don't announce your plans to leave an abusive home. You wait until that to sleep or knock him out and tie him up before leaving. Dom was saved at the last second by Credence's illness, and it was only then that he lost that last scrap of sanity rolling around somewhere in his brain.
My parents were looking for me. You burned them alive.
He took burned sheets of Credence's skin and glued them into the crude mask he wears, and went searching for other bullies in his life. That's a lot of wrong turns in one lifetime. So many so fast, I might call it contrived. If I hadn't watched Running Scared once upon a time. Back in the basement, Jay tells the others they need to apologize, hoping it'll inspire Dom to let them go. Dominic comes in wielding a stun baton. Jay begs Dom's forgiveness, but the big guy's just not feeling it. I guess since I'd have to leave it here if I didn't go back to trying to help these walking festerpuffs of cruelty survive. So let's play both sides here just to keep it interesting. Dom prepares for his next act of revenge. He drags Kat into the center of the room and motions Jay forward. In his hand, he holds a syringe full of some sort of saline fluid filled with spider eggs. Again, if you really don't want to do this to Kat, how about you pop that syringe right into Dom's neck before he can react? That mask restricts his field of vision, so it's a calculated risk to disorient him long enough to take him down. Unfortunately, even revenge this gross doesn't scratch that itch for Dom. He notices Paul's dead body and gets so mad, he pops Paul's head like a stress ball. A little while later, Dom sees Adam stab Jay on the camera monitor and rushes in to punish them for messing with his toys. It's a trap. As Dom reaches for him, Jay wraps around the waist, calling to the others to grab the hose. Instead of seizing that blade in the small of Dom's back and disemboweling or paralyzing him with it, Adam goes with the piggyback riding, slam me into the wall position. Sure, let me just sacrifice my stability, balance, and not even gouge his eyes out. Useless. Look, I know they're all traumatized or whatever, but how am I supposed to root for someone who doesn't go for the obvious weapon? Just leave it out of the scene if they're not supposed to use it, for God's sake. Dom quickly gets the upper hand and holds Adam down. He hands Kat a scalpel before telling her to slice Adam's eye open. Again, he hands you a sharp weapon and you don't even cut him anywhere. Scalpels can cut through nerves. One deep slice to an arm would render it unusable. Either these people all failed freshman biology, which to be fair is totally possible, or they've somehow convinced themselves that working out gives him titanium skin. Dom goes at Jay with the knife, but Jay knocks it away. Dom wraps a chain around his neck and begins to crush him when Kat does the only thing she's good at.
No one will ever love you. I was just...
Dom runs away instead of cutting out her tongue, which frankly shows immense restraint for someone who filleted a grown man over a number of weeks. After he leaves, Jay performs emergency surgery on Adam. Now, imagine you just pocket sanded the broken man-child while he was kneeling in front of you and cut his throat with his own blade, instead of having to do any of this. The lights flash and Adam panics, begging for the knife to defend himself. When Jay won't give it up, the guys fight. Kat intervenes in the stupidest way possible. I mean, please don't make me root for them now. Who tries to stop a fight by bashing someone's head in with a rock? Ugh, if it weren't for all the horrific child abuse, I think this was a comedy, and I'd probably enjoy it more. So stupid. Not to mention, you had this big head smashing rock the whole time. Useless. Jay pulls the knife from Dom's throat, killing him in an act of mercy, I guess. Then he walks over to Kat, who he lets just turn the knife on him. She tells him that because he was a local, she knew Dom was out there, trapped in Credence's house, being abused for all those years, and did nothing. None of them did, which is absolutely correct. So, who am I supposed to root for here? Suddenly, Dom wraps his arm around her neck from behind. Jay, once again, tries to be sympathetic, telling Dom things can be better. Dom counters that everyone in Jay's world is scum and abandoned him, that there's nowhere to go. Jay coaxes Dom into letting him take off his mask. What kind of Calvin Klein male model bull is this? There's nowhere to go? Bro, you could be walking the Paris runways tomorrow. Jay manages to get the knife away from Dom, but spiders suddenly begin to pour out of Kat's mouth. You had like 45 chances to stab this guy and you still kill the girl? Dom lays Kat down and decides to really savor those last 5 seconds of sadism. I suppose that might as well happen. Maybe he dropped a quarter in there. I don't know. Tired of all the evil he can't purge from them, Dom throws down his knife and opens his arms to let Jay finish him off. Instead, Jay bolts, running through the building looking for an escape as Dom half-heartedly chases him, leisurely injuring him now and then. No, I'm not joking. Until Dom finally tosses him easily over a railing to the cement floor below. Dom tries to drown him in bloody water. Jay punches him with the blood hose, and the chase resumes. Apparently, Jay would rather die fighting, which I kinda understand, except when a killer's trying to make it easy for you. Jay gets the upper hand again and again, even bashing Dom repeatedly in the head with a metal pail, but he can't quite finish the job. And so Dom pursues him into the snowy forest beyond the house, where he hands Jay the knife again, points it right at his heart, and tells him to end it. Jay refuses. Both of you make up your minds already. Dom tosses Jay to the ground. This is basically by cop, and I don't concede defeat here, in either direction. Jay goes home to his family because Dom handed him a get-out-of-jail-free card several times until he accepted it. But of course, Jay can't even finish this correctly. We jumped 10 years into the future to find Jay's daughters have taken after the worst version of their dad, returning to the woods on their 10th anniversary of his abduction. And of course, someone's waiting for them. I think we can all agree the opportunities and methods Kat, Adam, and Jay had to end this fight on multiple occasions in a variety of scenarios are too numerous to count. But frankly, they were scummy humans who kinda had it coming. So, participation trophy for Jay, I guess? And Dom's apparently unkillable. So, add a Terminator role to his list of reasons to just kill them and move on with his life already. For those reasons, I think the dare was beaten. And remember, no one is worth giving up decades of your life to enact elaborate revenge schemes. A bullet or a welded shut door where they can all starve to death chained to the wall would work just fine.